You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on AngryMarks.com with Peter H. and Stevie J. Find them on Twitter at HardcoreCDN and at AngryMarks. And now, for all the news, reviews, and interviews in mixed martial arts, it's time for Glove Up or Shut Up from AngryMarks.com.
And welcome everybody to another episode of Glove Up or Shut Up right here on AngryMarks.com. My name is Peter H. and I'm joined once again by my co-host who is yet to fail a drug test, Stevie J.
Never have, never will. I don't need estrogen blockers. I produce all my own natural testosterone.
And if those guys show up at my door one more time at 6 in the morning, I'm sticking the cat on them.
Yeah, you better get something bigger than a cat to stick on them because they're still going to come in.
Well, there's no cage here I could hide under.
That's true.
Alright, well, we've got shows from last week, shows from this week to talk about, but we have to talk about the news. Jon Jones and Brock Lesnar. What do these guys have in common?
Estrogen blockers.
The last thing I'd expect is to have these two guys have in common. Maybe, you know, you could have Jon Jones in a year or two main event WrestleMania. No, this is just a really weird coincidence. And
well, we should say that it's a coincidence in the respect that Jones is confirmed to have failed for estrogen, and we don't know if Brock Lesnar's is estrogen blockers or not, but people are saying that he failed for the same thing as Jones, and since Jones was revealed on Monday, that's what it would be.
Now, as far as Jones is concerned, it looks like there will be a hearing in either September or October. They haven't finalized the date yet. I would have to assume Jones would be there in person for the hearing, but man, if they stream that live, there'll be a lot of eyeballs watching it.
Well, I think they probably got a lot of eyeballs on Monday just because people were waiting for the official announcement of what he actually failed for. But boy, Chael Sonnen looks like a prognosticator right now because he called it even before the hearing on Monday. He said estrogen blocker, and he was right.
Well, also Rashad Evans.
Yeah, also Rashad Evans.
Which is the only time I'm going to say something positive about Rashad Evans.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, Brock Lesnar
fails not once but twice. Once out of competition, once in competition, because the second test, which just came back right before we recorded this show, was taken the night of the fight.
Now, what's worse, failing for two separate estrogen blockers in Jones in an out-of-competition test, or Brock Lesnar failing both out of competition and the day of the event for the same drug?
That's pretty hard to say. It's embarrassing for UFC on all fronts is the best thing I can say about it because Jones got taken off the pay-per-view card because of his failure, and had they known about Brock Lesnar's failure a little bit quicker, he wouldn't have been on the card either.
Now, where does this leave Mark Hunt?
It leaves him very irate if you haven't been keeping up with it. He has demanded that he be paid all of the money that was paid to Brock Lesnar, or he walks from his UFC contract and they can fire him.
So, I've heard multiple reports, different stories. It seems like every day this story changes. It's, I'm gonna quit, I want some of the purse, I want the entire purse. Like, I know if you pop for a drug test, you forfeit either a percentage or the whole thing, depending on the state. I'm not sure what Nevada's is because I can't remember.
I can actually give you some clarification on that.
Okay.
In Nevada, if you fail for an anabolic steroid, or I assume taking something to mask the anabolic steroid, which an estrogen blocker would be, you can be fined 50 to 75% of your fight purse.
And since Brock's official purse, not counting the points he got on the pay-per-view,
was $2.5 million. So his fine could be anywhere from $1.25 to $1.875 million.
So,
and that's the money Mark Hunt wants. He's saying that fine should not go to the commission, it should go to him.
Now, The problem is, like, I mean, they're gonna have to do something with this purse because obviously Nevada has this precedent in place. And this will make Mark Hunt probably the highest paid fighter to lose a fight, but also this fight obviously would be overturned to a no contest, correct?
If both failures are upheld, there's no way the fight result can stand. It has to be a no contest. I mean, Mark Hunt can't be made the winner. He lost that fight clear as day, but he certainly can't be the loser either because he took the fight clean and his opponent didn't. So no contest is the only reasonable way to go.
Well, man, on Friday I was excited. And then Saturday, the day of the event was awesome. Sunday, and I had that feeling that, okay, we got the bad stuff out of the way. Here we are, the fight's over, it's in the books, everything's great. And now this week I have that same taste in my mouth from the Jones, drug failure where you're like, man, again? You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like you're getting sick of this.
Yeah, I tried to explain that to Michelle when we went out to dinner a little earlier. I said, there are times when I just need an hour or two just to get away from it for a little while because there are so many cards, there are so many high-profile fighters, and there are so many drug test failures anymore that it's just a never-ending cycle of shit. And there was just no other way I could put it than that.
Well, alright. As far as Brock is concerned, we'll see when the official report comes out after the B sample's tested. I gotta wait until...
Or as Lesnar said, quote, we'll get to the bottom of this, unquote.
Great quote. But,
what are we getting to the bottom of there, Lesnar? Your steroid stash? What are we getting to the bottom of?
And for those who are wondering, if he gets suspended, he will still be able to wrestle at SummerSlam because...
In the state of New York, it's a promoter's license, not a wrestler's license, so they can't revoke his license to wrestle.
Exactly. But you gotta think in certain states...
Kentucky?
Yeah. Shout out to Kev.
Yes, indeed. There are commission states that oversee both wrestling and MMA, so in any of those states, he would not be allowed to wrestle there. But that's probably not a problem from WWE's point of view since he's on a part-time schedule and they only bring him in for the big shows. So those are not going to tend to be in commission states anyway because WWE really doesn't like to deal with that. That's why they don't run events in Kentucky.
Exactly. Now, we've talked about Joe. Okay, one more point before we talk about last week's UFC show, the fight night that happened.
Sioux Falls,
in Sioux Falls. Jones now, he's been temporarily suspended until the hearing in September or October.
Right, and he's already saying that he's going to have everything he took tested. He's throwing out the old tainted supplements excuse.
No, I'm just saying, has the UFC stripped him of the interim title yet?
There's been no announcement of that.
Oh God, why are they dragging their feet on this? I mean, it's almost like a formality.
You would think so, but maybe they believe that he can get cleared if he finds a supplement that was tainted and they'll give him a reduced fine and then they don't need to strip him because he'll only be suspended for 6 months instead of 2 years. I don't know what their thinking is. I don't work at WME IMG. I don't have those kind of answers. I would have said I don't work at Zuffa, but as we all know, that changed.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so before we talk Sioux Falls, we have to talk a lot of news because there's a lot of stuff that happened between our last show. This week, the Vancouver show was announced. Tickets were on sale this week, and the card is just getting stacked right now. The fights that were just added, it looks like the co-main event is Joe Lozon versus Jim Miller. The rematch happens in Vancouver on August 27th.
Well, that's a pretty quality fight, especially since Lozon just had a big win at UFC 200, so I approve.
And surprisingly, not on the co-main or the main, but a fight really high on my list, Carlos Oliveira against Anthony Pettis.
That is a pretty quality fight as well.
But Stevie, you might be asking me, what's the main event?
Well, I should say Miller also got a big win at UFC 200, but go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
What were you going to say? What's the main event?
Damian Maia and Carlos Condit. They've moved the main event to Vancouver.
That's interesting. I know that fight was scheduled. What fight card was that originally supposed to be on?
Oh, Cleveland, I think?
Yeah, because I remember that fight was coming up pretty soon.
So it's coming up August 27th, and you all remember what happened last time the Natural Born Killer fought in Vancouver.
Yes, so hopefully it'll be another electrifying performance. We'll wait and see, but Maia, he's no joke if it goes to the ground, and Condit better be prepared for that.
Now, the reason I mentioned that fight, Condit versus McDonald, is because McDonald is now in negotiations, and one of the companies he's in negotiations with is Bellator.
Yeah, well, he said he was going to test the waters of free agency. Is there anybody out there with the money to pay him other than Bellator? The answer is no.
Actually, I heard one other company might be in the running.
Who could legitimately pay him what he's worth?
One.
I don't know that one wants to invest that much money in Rory McDonald. I'm highly skeptical of that.
Be an interesting signing, though.
I'm not
Rich
saying
Franklin would definitely have a coup on his hands if he did that.
I'm not saying it wouldn't be a coup. I'm not saying it wouldn't be pretty big, but let's look at the realistic scale of who has the money here. And I'm not saying ONE FC has no money, but I am saying that Bellator is bankrolled by Viacom and UFC is bankrolled by WME IMG. And who's ONE FC bankrolled by? They don't have a giant media backer like the other two do.
No.
I mean, I'm just going to throw this out as an equivalent here just to show the absurdity. It would be like Rory McDonald signing with Legacy. And it's not that Legacy is a bad organization, it's just they don't have those kind of resources.
Well, maybe they could do a trade. UFC gets Ben Askren, and they send Roy McDonald in a first-round draft pick in next year's draft. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it works that way in mixed martial arts. I don't think you can do a player to be named later. I don't think that flies here.
There's no players. There's no player drafts. There's no player trading. There's no nothing like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll continue on the Bellator tip here with Bellator releasing 7 fighters yesterday.
Yeah. Well, the first one really wasn't a surprise because speaking of drug test failures, Mike the Marine Rickman was on a 2-year suspension because he tested positive after losing to Eduardo Dantas. So they just decided to cut bait there, and you can't really blame them for that. But some of these other names are pretty big in Bellator history, like Dave Jansen, former #1 lightweight contender. He once went on a 7-fight winning streak in the promotion before he got his title shot at Will Brooks, so that's a pretty big name. And Mikel Parlo was a runner-up in the middleweight tournament before he lost to Brennan Ward, so that was a pretty significant name. And I know the one you're not going to let me skate on if I don't mention him is Omaha's own Houston the Assassin Alexander.
1-3-1 in Bellator.
I can't say it's exactly shocking that he got cut after only winning 1 fight, but there were a few other names there, and one of them was actually Bellator having their hand forced because Thiago Jambo retired after his loss to Chidi Njokuani, so there was no reason for them to keep him. They kind of had to cut him after that. And who else am I forgetting? Oh, Rafael Butler, the boxer turned MMA fighter. They cut him as well.
And the one name that really caught me off by surprise is the former king of pancreas, Iso Kobayashi.
Oh, that's right. Well, he
0-2 in Bellator, and he's done.
Well, he hadn't looked good in either of those fights, so I mean, he pretty much got smoked by Justin Lawrence. So what are you going to do with the guy after that?
Yeah, but Justin Lawrence isn't a tomato can either.
No, hell no. That wasn't what I meant. I hope you're not taking that from what I said. I'm just saying he had a bad fight his first fight, and then he got smoked in his second fight by a good fighter. So if he's getting beaten by good fighters and other fighters and just not looking good in either of those fights, where do you go from there? Nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
what
you can't
you do.
go lower than the prelims with the guy. He was already on the prelims.
Or maybe he can go to Legacy.
I guess so.
But 7 fighters. Do you think we'll see any of the fighters who were cut in UFC?
Well, Jumbo, we won't because he retired.
Okay, not him.
And Houston had already been in UFC and they let him go, so I don't think it's too likely he's going back there.
The only name that people are talking about as far as jumping to the UFC would be Dave Jansen. He's got some big names on his belt under his belt for victories that, are in UFC now. The only problem is he's a little bit old. Like, he's 36.
And
so
he's an eclectic, colorful individual who basically Bellator let him do his own thing. But I don't know if UFC would be necessarily happy with that if he wanted to go tend to his bees instead of attending a press conference. They might not be too happy about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see what else we got here. I mean, Jansen would be ideal. Richmond, his suspension, it's recent, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it started, like I said, after Eduardo Dantas, so rewind the clock from that date, and it could be over in like another 6 months or a year, I suppose, but I don't know. He had moved down to bantamweight to re-find himself in Bellator, and he'd won 2 fights before he lost to Dantas, but if he's not beating Eduardo Dantas, I don't know if he's getting through that murderer's row at UFC either.
No, you said it, murderer's row. It's like the welterweight division in UFC. It's like, great, you're number 5. I'm not going anywhere. I'm lucky to be 5. I'm happy to be 5. In this row, I'm good. It's good to see Bellator having this one division at murderer's row level at this point.
Yeah. No, bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight have all been super strong, super competitive divisions in Bellator. I think their most fraught divisions are light heavyweight and heavyweight. Liam McGeary has given them some consistency, but injuries are also a problem.
Show me one division doesn't have injury problems.
Well, yeah, but
look at DJ.
I know, but I'm saying when it comes to weight classes that are pretty clear cut in Bellator, the higher up in weight you go, the shakier they become.
That is definitely true. Now, we'll talk about Bellator 158 in a little bit. And we
have to preview
injuries.
159 because that's Friday.
Oh yes, we got 2 big shows this week.
Yes, Holm and Shevchenko as well.
Let's see, I already talked about that. I'm just going through my notes, see if I skip anything before we jump over to last week's shows, because there were 2 really good shows that happened. Oh, Big John McCarthy will be the ref for Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor too.
No problem there.
No, you want someone like that, making sure, laying down the law. UFC Fight Night 94 in Texas. Oh boy. UFC in Texas, here we go. Dustin Poirier and Michael Johnson, that's a good fight.
Quality.
Oh yeah. But I wonder, in Texas, that commission, still not I'm not a fan of that commission. I don't know,
I'm not a fan of Kerry Hatley reffing fights. That's the thing that worries me.
Oh, you had to go there, eh?
Well, whenever they do a show in Texas, it's always him. Whether it's Bellator or UFC, it's always him.
The co-main is Uriah Hall and Derek Brunson.
It's another quality fight.
If Hall gets that knockout on Brunson, though. If. Now, did you ever see the kickbox?
What a year it's been for Uriah. Consider at one point he was supposed to face Anderson Silva, and look at everything that's happened since then.
Yeah. Well, look who he's supposed to fight, who he is fighting. It's a roller coaster for him this year.
Right.
Now, did you ever see the kickboxer movies growing up?
Which ones specifically are you talking about?
It's like those old 90s action movies, you know what I mean? Like Bloodsport, Kickboxer.
Well, yeah, I've seen Bloodsport. I've seen Bloodsport.
So there's going to be another kickboxer movie called Kickboxer Retaliation. Mm-hmm. And a UFC fighter is in the movie.
Okay.
Roy Nelson.
All right. Why not?
Sure. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, another UFC fighter in the movies? And I'm like, okay, which one? Nelson? I'm like, well, I could see that. He's very charismatic. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we talked about Lozon and Miller. That's the rematch. Oh, and in the only political note of the week, Stevie, I know you're not big on politics on this show, but Dana White will be speaking at the Republican National Convention this week.
Yeah, well, that's what Donald Trump had to do because a lot of the leading Republicans in his own party didn't want to be there, so he had to bring in a bunch of athletes and celebrities.
Yeah, well, I mean, opening night was Scott Baio and the guy from Duck Dynasty. Really a who's who of Hollywood.
Like I said, athletes and celebrities.
Alright, Karate Hottie and Alcing Daly's fighting in Germany, UFC Fight Night 93.
That should be a fun fight to watch.
I'm sure Oliver Kopp will be, front and center for that one.
I would be shocked if he wasn't.
Let's see, Gerald Harris is coming out of retirement.
Okay.
That's a fighter from back in the day that I'm glad to see is coming back.
I'm indifferent, but if it works out for him, so much the better.
Now, I know we're both on Twitter, and before we move on to Sioux Falls, I know, like, when stuff is breaking on Twitter, it's all, like, I just can't keep up with it sometimes, to be honest. But when the news today broke about Brock Lesnar, Stevie, I've never seen my Twitter move that fast before. Like, it was just, I couldn't read the line, it was just like a blur. It's like everybody had an opinion. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really surprised the story got this much traction this fast in just the span of a few hours.
Well, it's because he'd already failed once, so the second failure was even bigger news.
Yeah. Okay, I just got a note. 3 more fights have been added, including, oh boy, Kevin Casey and Sam Alvey.
Wait, you're talking about the Vancouver card when you say 3 more fights are added.
Yes.
All right.
Sam Alvey, who just came off that really boring fight in Ottawa, is fighting Kevin Casey from Ultimate Fighter fame.
Okay.
So, hopefully Alvey will be able to connect with his opponent, as opposed to Elias, who liked to dance around the cage for 3 rounds and gets the win. That's just me.
Yeah.
I feel like Kermit the Frog. What do I know? You know, it's like, that's just my opinion. Alright, well, we've teased it long enough. Let's talk about the show in Sioux Falls last week. UFC, Fight Night 91, Sioux Falls, for a show that no one really knew about because of the all that show prep and International Fight Week and everything else. This one really flew under the radar. John Lineker and Michael McDonald in the main event. Did it disappoint, Stevie?
No, that was a ridiculously fun fight. In fact, I would say all of the main card fights on the Sioux Falls card were ridiculously fun, but how about that one-punch knockout power Lineker has? I mean, I know the guy has got a reputation for having heavy hands, hands of stone, all that, but Michael McDonald is not the easiest person in the world to put away, and he just torched him.
And for those who think that Lineker, like it was a fluke punch or something, they obviously don't know Lineker's background. I mean, he's got the power. I think this was just a perfect time to showcase it, and McDonald probably literally didn't see it coming, but
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he, how do I say this? It's almost like he undervalued the knockout power of Lineker.
Or just didn't think he could be caught to that degree because he thought he was quicker and more elusive than that.
Yeah. But McDonald, I mean, what do you do now? I mean, that was you almost have to pick up your jaw off the ground and, just go back to the training camp and go at it, you know?
Yeah. Back to the drawing board.
Lineker, that's a great, highlight reel knockout that will definitely, hopefully shoot him up the rankings.
You want to talk about highlight reel? Let's talk about that co-main event. Holy crap.
That is definitely in my top 5 for fight of the year and only lasted 7 minutes and 22 seconds if you combine both rounds.
There are a lot of officials who would have given Vannata that fight in the first round. There were a couple of times when Tony Ferguson should not have been allowed to continue.
He was not looking like he was in control there. It was facility, like of his faculties.
He was stumbling around like a drunk. There's no other way to put it. He could
drunk,
not
yeah.
he couldn't get his bearings. He was falling over himself. And I'm honestly shocked that it didn't get waved off.
Well, are we glad that the fight wasn't waved off though? I mean,
Well, considering the way it ended, I mean, yeah, of course it was an exciting finish, but boy, that's at a risk to his health. I mean, kudos to him for having the wherewithal to bounce back from getting royally rocked. I mean, he got rocked to the degree that Matt Mitrione did in that fight with Sam Onatafa. And yeah, Mitrione came back to win too, but he also didn't remember the fight after it was over. And I suspect,
that's scary. That is still scary.
I know. I suspect Tony Ferguson might not remember that fight very well. They'll have to watch the video of it to see what he did.
Just say, yeah, I remember it. Next question, please.
Yeah.
Just next question.
Right.
Tim Boetsch against Josh Salmon. I like Josh. Good attitude. Man, did Tim Boetsch take care of him in the second round.
I think Boetsch was on a mission here to prove that he's not done yet in UFC. He wanted to go out here and make a statement with this fight.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, we had a majority decision with, oh boy, Omielan's, I can't even try that one.
Omelnichuk.
Thank you. Defeating Alexei Olenek, 29-28, 29-28, and a 28-28.
Well, there was arguably a 10-10 round in that fight.
Yeah, well, if there was a definition of a 10-10, that would be it.
The reason Omelnichuk pulled ahead in this fight was just he had a little bit more cardio than Olenek. He was a little bit stronger in the third round and was doing a little bit more than his opponent.
This is why the fights are judged like the rules are in place now as opposed to Pride rules. Now, not Shinsei, but Kiete Nakamura beating Kyle Noak.
1 second.
Very,
like less than 1 second. Like right at the freaking end of the round.
I thought the horn went, I thought he survived.
And Kyle Noak's corner was screaming at him, 10 seconds, Kyle, just hang on 10 seconds. And you could tell he wanted to, but he was just in so much trouble that even with 10 seconds left to go, he still had to tap with a second left.
And, rounding up the main card, Louis Samolka beating Ben Nguyen TKO 2 minutes, the second round 4:41.
The crowd,
so another late stop it.
The crowd really made this fight because they were into Ben Nguyen. He was like the hometown guy and they were just trying so hard to get him over the hump, but he kept getting tagged by Smolka and they were just emotionally invested in the results. So they were going crazy anytime that Nguyen escaped and tried to make a comeback.
Yeah. We talked about Sam Alvey before. He wins his prelim fight against Eric Spicely. He didn't get paid by the hour on this one as he wins in 2:43 at the guillotine choke. So still no damage, so he can fight right away.
I guess so.
He's not going up to Cerrone's record, but still.
No.
Some other big names in this one. I mean, Lauren Murphy got beat by unanimous decision.
That was an upset.
That was Caitlin Shuki. Oh,
I think
it's again? Chikugian. Man, these names today. Yeah, so Lauren Murphy, that was an upset for sure. Cody Fister as well.
Wait, before you move on. I'm friends with Lauren on social media and I saw her response to that and she said, things didn't go my way tonight, but that was the first time where I feel like I genuinely lost, that I didn't lose to the judges or I didn't lose on a technicality. I gotta take my hats off to her because I definitely lost fair and square.
And Scott Holtzman beating Cody Fister, unanimous decision. And basically, I had it 30-27 for all 3 rounds. I don't know what round the other judge gave it 29-28, but.
Yeah, I can't imagine either, but we'll just let that slide. Yeah.
And the fight pass, Rani Yahya beating Matt Lopez and Alex Nicholson beating Devin Clark. So there's their Sioux Falls results. And we move on to Bellator, 158 in London, which, I know I shouldn't say this, Stevie, But when I was watching this show, I couldn't help but think about Kimbo.
Well, they did make a point at the very beginning of the broadcast that their hearts were heavy because Kimbo was supposed to be there, and he passed away 6 weeks ago, so the show goes on, but they're still thinking of him, even as it does. So you didn't have to be mindful of Kimbo Slice because they were actually pointing it out to you.
Yeah. I was really looking forward to that Thompson-Kimbo's fight, you know what I mean? Like, it would have been good to see, but, sometimes
life takes you in a different direction. You never know when your number's going to be called.
Yep. Well, speaking of numbers, Douglas Lima beating Paul Daly 3 rounds to nothing.
Definitely had his number, and I think
holy crap.
The most impressive thing to me was that Daly is such a ferocious power puncher. We know about his knockouts. We know about his reputation. And Douglas Lima has some pretty good power in his hands, too, but everybody thought of the two of them, Daly was the heavier hitter. But Lima tagged him early in that first round, and from that point on, you could tell Daly had to respect the power in his hands and had to be careful when he was coming in for strikes, and when he was, Lima was tagging him. And it just a display of precision, accuracy. It reminded me of what Conor McGregor said once about how precision beats power. That was what we were seeing from Douglas Lima here. He was just accurate on the button with every shot that he threw. And by the third round, Daly had dug himself into a hole he couldn't get out of.
Now, do you think that first round when he tagged him, he negated the power of Daly and basically put him on the back foot, so to speak, and, just tried to establish his dominance, so to speak, in a way that Daly was confused because Daly's a very game plan oriented fighter that, it just screwed him up.
I don't even know if you can say that it screwed up his game plan. I think Daly's game plan was still to get in there and rock him. I just don't think he could because Lima was quicker to the punch and landing with the more precise and deleterious strikes. I mean, it was just not possible for him to execute the game plan because Lima was just beating him to the punch, literally.
Well, speaking of punches, Matt Mitrione beating Ole Thompson 421 of the second round.
Now, this one I don't know you'd call a fight of the year.
No.
But, if you want to talk about fun, the first 5 minutes of this fight were your total pro wrestling slobber knocker brawl. Just two guys standing in front of each other throwing haymakers, trying to see if the other one would fall down. And it's not technical. It's not something you would show as this is what you do if you're a fighter. But man, that 5 minutes was exciting because you kept thinking at any second either one of these guys could just be lights out.
To use a wrestling comparison, this was not Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit.
No. This was a pure 6 brawl. If you want to go wrestling, we'll go wrestling.
All right, what about Francis Carmont beating Lucas Klinger, Darce choke, 354, round 1?
Well, Klinger was overmatched because he was a last-minute replacement for Linton Vassell, and he had a pretty good record coming in, 7-2, but clearly had never fought anybody of the caliber of a tri-star gym specialist like Carmont.
Mm-hmm.
And once Carmont got him on the ground and got side control, you knew it was only a matter of time.
Now we have to talk about the next fight, Stevie. I'm going to give you the floor for this one. This is gone everywhere.
Uh-huh.
Michael Page beating Cyborg Santos, Evangelista Cyborg Santos, in the second round at 4:31. Stevie, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, the first round, it was not a super fun round to watch because Santos got Page down off a leg kick and was looking to improve position and hunt for a submission. Page did what he had to do. He survived. He didn't get caught, but just not the usual first round you see from Michael Venom Page because he's known for his exciting spinning strikes, his flying flashy techniques. He's a former karate guy, and he likes to show that off in the cage. So, first round was very disappointing in that respect. If you came to see Michael Page smoke somebody in the first round, you didn't get it. But in the second round, he was able to evade and not get taken down again, and then he hurt Santos with a liver kick. And you could tell that he wasn't quite all there after that kick landed. He wasn't menacing. He wasn't coming forward. He wasn't firing back. He was almost frozen in his tracks, but he wasn't out. He didn't fall down in a heap like we've seen some people do off a liver kick, but he wasn't quite right. And so he's halfway in the fight and halfway not, and just kind of there. And Page, you can't fault him for this. He realized it. He sees the opportunity. He comes charging up, jumps in the air with a flying knee, cracks him right in the skull, and I do mean crack, and we'll get to why in a second. Down goes Santos in a heap. The fight's over.
That's not where the fun stops.
No. Then he's given a hat with the Pokemon logo on it, and he's given a Pokeball, and he goes across the cage and rolls the ball at his opponent. And his post-fight interview, he says, all respect to a man, he's a great fighter, but I caught out my Pokeball and I caught me a cyborg.
Really?
Yes, and
in 2016. I know
Pokemon Go is the thing right now, so.
I think I've seen it all in mixed martial arts now, when you can capture your favorite fighter by rolling a Pokeball at him.
Well,
and a few days later, UFC releases the Topps trading card game on iPhone and Android, but I was like, what?
You haven't seen it all, though, because until you've seen the picture of what his skull looked like after the fight.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
I just sent the picture to Stevie in the Skype chat.
No, you didn't need to. I saw it days ago.
Oh.
That is brutal. We are not exaggerating. If you're listening to this and you want to go look it up right now, if you Google this, there is a dent in his forehead. That is how hard he got rocked by this knee. It actually crushed part of his skull. Not
a Harvey dent, but a real dent.
Like a mark. If you've seen those viral videos of people pouring shots into the caved in parts of their body and then drinking the shots, that's what this looks like.
It's worse than Abby.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And he was talking about flying back to the United States for surgery, and I kind of flipped out when he said that. Like, dude, your skull is crushed.
Oh, you haven't heard the latest then?
You shouldn't fly anywhere with that. You should be getting treated for that now.
Stevie?
Yes?
He says he'll be back in 6 months.
Okay, well, if he gets a titanium plate put in his head, maybe.
Oh, can you imagine going through the airport with a titanium plate in your skull?
Well, at least it'd be the easiest pat down ever. Just hand him an x-ray and say, there's a reason, look.
Yep. Poor Cyborg Santos here, and
yeah, the ex-Cyborg, Mrs. Cyborg, his ex-wife, was actually trying to raise money for his medical expenses.
Bellator has confirmed they will pay the medical bills.
Right.
And also give him his win bonus.
Right. Well,
That's classy right there.
He deserves it after what he just went through, so. I think they'd look pretty bad if they let Michael Page go out there and spoof Pokemon and then the guy was seriously fucked up for life. They would look really, really bad, so.
And I always believe in fact checking, Stevie. It's a pretty big thing when you're doing reporting news and what have you, correct?
Of course, yes.
Well, maybe when people post these photos and you type in Cyborg Santos skull fracture and they put us side by side, they put the x-ray and then they put a picture of his ex-wife. Wrong Cyborg Santos.
Yes, Evangelista. That's the one we're talking about. Not Mrs. Cyborg. That's why I was very specific about that.
One's UFC, one's Bellator.
Right. They used to be married, they're not anymore.
So
she got the name from him, actually.
Absolutely. Now, as far as the other fights on Bellator, there were some untelevised fights. The one fight, I didn't see it. I would have loved to have seen it, to be honest, because it only lasted 14 seconds. But Jason Radcliffe knocked out Jack Mason.
Yeah, it was. Actually, I think that was bonused onto TV.
Was it? I was doing a bunch of stuff when the show was airing, because then it was on tape delay.
Yeah.
So, I was reading your report. Actually, that's how I kept tabs on it, because I was working.
Ah.
A lot of things happened on the day of that show, I tell you.
Yeah.
Alright, well, we've talked about Bellator, we've talked about UFC. Let's go back to Bellator, because they've got a show this weekend. Bellator 159, Caldwell and
Taimanglo. Joe Taimanglo. Just call him the Juggernaut.
Hey, that's a good nickname.
Yeah, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
Oh, Jesus. That's the oh geez moment of the show right there, folks.
Well, it's his nickname, so you might as well go there.
What about Melvin Gillard and David Rickles as the co-main?
I think there's a very high probability David Rickles is getting a first-round knockout.
Really?
Okay, have you been watching Melvin Gillard lately?
Yeah. A little bit on the downslide, yes.
Do you dispute my assessment?
No, but I wouldn't completely write him off either.
I think Gillard has been done ever since he lost the fight to Justin Gaethje. I think that was the last hurrah for him.
You think that's his turning point?
I think it's been all downhill ever since then.
As far as the main event, I got called
the fact that he didn't even make weight for that fight and then lost a split decision that he probably thinks he won, that's just, I don't think he's been the same since.
As far as the main event, I got Caldwell winning that one against the Juggernaut, and I'm gonna go with the upset. I'm gonna go with Melvin beating Rickles.
I don't see it. Gillard is past his prime, and Rickles has probably not even hit his.
Now, what about Daniel Weichel against Emmanuel Sanchez?
See, this one is probably the most unpredictable out of the predictions we can make, because Emmanuel Sanchez is one of those guys that always finds a way to win with the judges with a close split decision.
Yeah.
But when he gets put against the cream of the crop, like the Pat Currans, that's when that backfires on him, because those are the guys that know how to outpoint him and outwork him, even if it goes to the judges. So my prediction is Daniel Weichel is in that class as well, especially after watching what he did to Georgi Karakanyan. I would say that Weichel will get a decision, and it won't be a split decision, but that's just me.
So you're leaving it to the judges?
I'm leaving it to the judges, but I think Weichel pulls it out.
What about Linz and Vienna?
That's a total coin flip as far as I'm concerned.
I got Vienna, but I have it 2 rounds to 1. I really don't. You're right, it's a coin flip.
I'll have a better decision for you when I make my predictions for MMA Mania, so tune in later this week and read them there.
And rounding out the main card is Bruna Ellen against Jessica Middleton.
I believe one of these two fighters has no professional experience.
Oh, God. Well, it's going to be a coin flip for me. I mean,
I'm trying to remember which one has never fought before. You don't know off the top of your
No, I want to say Ellen, but I could be wrong.
I'll try to find it here for you. Hold on.
I'm just checking the card. Is there any other names that scream out at me? I mean...
No, the prelims are not really anybody notable.
Okay. Alright, well, as Stevie looks that up, well, I'm just going to start talking about UFC on Fox 20 on Saturday at the United Center, home of the Chicago Blackhawks. I knew that was coming.
Bruna Ellen is 2-0. Jessica Middleton has never fought.
Oh boy. And she's on the main card of the Bellator show.
Yeah, well, they needed one more fight to round out the main card.
Alright, well, UFC on Fox 20, Holly Holm against Valentina Shevchenko. Shevchenko. Yeah. Interesting fact, Holm has never lost back-to-back fights.
Nope.
She's 10-1 in mixed martial arts, and she had an incredible boxing run as well, but she never lost back-to-back fights.
This could be the time when that falls apart.
I don't know. I see it'd be a stand-up battle, and if it's a stand-up battle, Holm has the edge.
But Shevchenko is really, really good.
Oh yeah, no, 12-2. You don't. That's that's nothing to sneeze at there.
And I mean, yeah, in pure boxing, Holly Holm would absolutely win that fight, but this isn't pure boxing.
No.
I will say Holm though, and she is the minus 300 favorite, so people are leaning her way, at least in the betting department.
I'm gonna go with Holm as well, and we move on to Gilbert Melendez and Edson Barboza.
Got a good coincidence for you here.
What's that?
I just talked to one of his training partners.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Marlon Moraes. He told me that Edson Barboza is the one guy he doesn't like to spar with.
Oh, I wonder why.
He said, you go in there with Barboza to spar, you better go in there and fight like it's a real fight, because he's going to hit you like a Mack truck.
And, of course, Gilbert Melendez. What do we want to say about him?
Speaking of people who are on the decline in their career.
Still, though, he's very talented. Like that.
I know he's insanely talented, dude. Look how dominant he was in Strikeforce for a long time. And look at the success he had in UFC early on. But these days, it's just not working out for him. And since Barboza hits like a Mack truck and Melendez can't seem to find a win of late, I like the fact that Barboza is minus 220 here. I think that's the right call.
I like Melendez in this fight.
I totally disagree.
Now, Melendez, if he loses this fight, I could totally see him becoming a coach and being a great coach at that.
He probably should go to coaching. I think it's about time for that.
Bohan Mihajlovic against Francis Ngannou. 10-3 against 7-1 here.
And Ngannou is the minus 650 favorite, the longest odds.
You can have a 10-3 record, but if you don't know who those 10 fights he won, I mean, Ngannou is definitely the favorite, 7-1 record here, so 650, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with him. And Kaylin Curran against Felice Herring.
Coin flip, it's minus 120 Curran, plus 100 Herring.
I'm going with Herring.
Yeah, I think I like that call too. I think she's tough, gritty, durable. She's not going to be the very top of the strawweight division, but she's always going to be hanging around. And I think she can win a fight, even with Curran being a very slight favorite.
Now the prelims, starting at 6 Eastern, Frankie Saenz against Eddie Wineland.
Saenz.
Wow. Saenz, sorry.
Leading to one of my all-time favorite tweets ever.
Uh-oh.
When he won his first UFC fight, I tweeted MMA Roasted, and I said, his opponent was blinded by science! Do-do-do-do. Science!
We need a buzzer on this show sometimes.
I got a retweet from MMA Roasted for that, so I was pretty proud of myself.
If anyone can put like a buzzer drop for this show, that would go right there, folks, right there.
Well,
like
I'm just glad you get that joke, because there's a whole generation of people that are too young to remember that song.
I know. Darren Elkins against Godofredo Pepe.
Yeah, and Elkins is minus 185. I don't know. I kind of feel like this could be an upset, though.
I like Elkins in this fight, though.
I'm gonna pick him to win, but I feel like there's every chance in the world Godofredo Pepe gets the upset, because it's pretty close, and Pepe is a pretty darn good fighter.
Now, as far as other names on the prelims, I'm going down to the prelims because Hector Urbina against George Sullivan and James Montastri against Alex Oliveira.
Fun fact for you on that one, too.
What's that?
I saw Montastri's first UFC fight when I went to UFC in San Antonio to cover it.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's going to be the UFC show on Fox. I really thought this would be the show with CM Punk.
Nope, that's Cleveland.
I know. But, I mean, that would have been so cool. Have his first fight at the United Center.
I suppose he would have been happy about that, but it also would have overshadowed most of the card if they did that, so I can kind of see why they didn't.
Yeah, but they always like having the hometown boy come home.
Yeah, but I mean, again, you put CM Punk on this card, then everybody leaves after his fight, and nobody stays to watch Shevchenko and Holm.
That's true. Well, maybe have him in the crowd at least.
I bet you he'll be there somewhere. Unless he's really, really deep into his camp getting ready for Mickey
Well, I
Gall.
think they'd fly him down, maybe put him in a Cubs jersey.
I guess he could be in a Blackhawks jersey in the crowd somewhere, but I'm saying it's not even my call, so he'll do what he wants. And
No
they'll do what
love
they
for the
want.
Cubbies, Stevie? Come on now.
Okay, if he's at the United Center, he's in a Blackhawks jersey. That's just the simple fact. He is a huge hockey nut. You know this.
Oh, yeah. I just think it's a little warm to be wearing a hockey jersey in the dead of summer is all.
Okay, this is CM Punk we're talking about.
That's true. Very unconventional.
Yeah, he doesn't care what you think.
No. God, no. All right, well, that's going to do it for the show this week. Stevie, what's on tap for Thursday Night AMP?
Well, New Japan started the G1 Climax this week,
yeah.
so we'll be talking about that. And the Super J Cup is 5:30 in the morning the same day of this show, so we'll probably be talking about that too.
You know, and it is the dead of summer, but I think there's a draft in there as well.
Well, yeah, we'll be catching a chill from the draft on Tuesday night, so be sure to check that out. And if that's not enough stuff for you to wrap your head around, Battleground is on Sunday.
Oh, that's right. Battleground this Sunday. Do you remember where the show's taking place?
Oh, shoot, you would ask.
I can't recall.
I want to say New Jersey, but...
No, I think because SummerSlam's in New York, isn't it?
SummerSlam is in Brooklyn.
Yeah, so I don't think you'd have back-to-back shows out on the East Coast.
Hold on. Now you're going to make me look. And this is an MMA show, so probably nobody gives a fuck about this. Let's see. Oh, it's in Washington, D.C. at the Verizon Center.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was trying to figure if there was like an MMA tie-in with the arena, perhaps.
I don't think so.
No, I don't recall any shows being at the Verizon Center of any significance, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong before.
Well, you know what? Now you're going to make me look that up, too.
Oh, jeez, Stevie.
Let's see. What's been held there? Notable events. Barry Manilow concert. Starrcade 97. The Stanley Cup Finals when they were swept in 4 games by the Red Wings.
Uh-huh.
The Backlash pay-per-view in 2000.
Oh, wait.
What?
October 1st, 2011. It just says hosted an MMA show. That's a fail.
Yeah, doesn't even say what card. Must not have been a big card.
No. Oh, frig. This show's come off a cliff here. Oh, boy. Yeah, so... Oh, it was Cruz Johnson. UFC Live. UFC on Versus 6.
Okay, I have a vague memory of that. I seem to recall Cruz pretty much manhandled him in that fight.
Alright, let's see the main event. That was Dominic Cruz defeating Demetrius Johnson by unanimous decision, 50-45, 50-45, and 49-46. Stefan Struve beat Pat Barry in the second round. Anthony Johnson knocked out Charlie Brenneman, and Matt Wyman beat Mac Danzig by decision on the main card.
Right. Now, wasn't it that the fight that made Demetrius Johnson decide to move down and wait?
Yes. And this was the last show on Versus.
Right, yeah.
Wow, that was back in 2011. That was...
Don't start going, that was back in shit, because I've been going to fights for over a decade now, and I've been going to wrestling for longer than that.
I know. I look back at the Versus days, and it reminds me of like TNA wrestling on ESPN.
Dude, I remember when the International Fight League was on Network TV.
Yep. I think I might watch an old school UFC show this weekend.
Yeah, fight
maybe
pass.
UFC 4 or something.
Yeah. I always like watching one, because it's just so nascent, so fetal at that point. They didn't even know what they were doing. They were just springing forth newborn, trying to figure it out as they went along. So UFC 1 is almost campy at times when they're trying to figure out.
The comedy of errors.
Right, but it's great because you see how it all came together, where it started from and how they learned like they said at one point in the commentary, we've learned tonight a fight isn't what we thought it was. And they learned literally as they went doing that show.
You know it's campy when he belches during the opening lines.
Exactly.
You don't think I'm being serious? Go check it out, folks.
Yeah, it's
he
on
literally
Fight
belches.
Pass. He does.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
Ugh. Good old Jim Brown in the commentary as well.
But Jim Brown was one of the highlights as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah, he saved that show.
Yes.
You know, that was a great show, but, we'll have another great show next week, Stevie. We're gonna review what happened in Chicago and what happened in Bellator as well, and hopefully we'll get some positive news next week.
Yes. I don't think we ever even mentioned that the fights are at the Kansas Star Arena in Mulvane, Kansas.
Mulvane, Kansas.
Say it with a little more redneck twang there, Peter. Mulvane, Kansas.
Mulvane, Kansas.
Not bad, not bad.
All right, we're Stevie J. I'm Peter H., the Hardcore Canadian. Thanks for listening, and as I always say, never leave it to the judges. Good night, everybody.
See ya.
You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.